then I'll just move on to localization. What is localization? It's essentially translating your app. So this is something that let's not say not many, but it's not something that always comes with app building platforms or with CMSs. It's not a common feature. It's usually an add-on, but we include it with Appspotr. How does it work? Is you have two parts to it. So we allow you to develop iOS, Android, and PWA for web, right? The issue with these three is that they have different standards or sometimes different language codes that can be different from platforms. So we could have automatically taken that decision for you and said, no, these codes go together, those codes go together, and I'll show you what I mean in a few seconds. But we've decided to let people decide what are the language codes that should go together and essentially create your own language. So you could make English North America or English UK, English Australia if you wanted, as different languages and have different text for those. And you can set one of them as the default. So let's say someone from Brazil opened up your app, and we didn't translate for Portuguese, then you would fall back to English, for example, which is what a lot of the apps do. And how is it set? It's set based on the device's language. So the user, their iPhone or their Android or their web browser has a language that's set. And based on that, the proper translation will be selected. Proper language will be selected. And then next thing is, after defining a language or defining multiple languages, you need to be able to write down the translations. So you create what we call, again, translation keys. We like that word a lot. This is essentially like a small, short code for something that will replace it. So let's say you wanted to make a key called home, and then you would write the text in English. What is home? What is home in Swedish? What is home in Spanish? What is home in French? And in this case, say, the different possible translations. Okay. So you make a key, and then for each key, you will be able to translate for the languages that you have defined. So it's very, very dynamic. It can get pretty interesting. The intended usage. So I got this question a few days ago, so I've added it now to the slides. The intended usage is mainly for static content, for your UI elements, your buttons, your navigation, your menu title, maybe your title, your text in the UI. It's not intended for it's not intended as a dynamic translation service, in the sense that it's not like Google Translate, where anything you pass, it will automatically translate it with machine learning or something. There are APIs for that if you really want it. This is intended just for the UI elements. And yeah, as I said, buttons, titles, or anything on your view, essentially. So let's just configure that in our app. You've seen it, it falls under design. So you have views, styles, which we haven't looked into. You have translations, languages. So let's go to languages. Again, you're seeing the same pattern as with the other ones. You go and create something. Let's make English. There we go. And then you'll see you have the different platforms, and this is where it gets fun. If you type English, see, you have different, you have just English or English US, English UK, but I'll just put these because that's enough. But then if I type English for iOS, you see that it has English on iOS assumes that EN is US. So, but on Android, they have EN, but then they have EN US. So again, you can make whatever combinations of different English as you want, and you could even break down your usage for different regions if you wanted to. But I'm going to do the same, a US and Great Britain. All right. Let's make another one. Since Appspotr is a Swedish company, let's do Swedish. And then Swedish. Again, see, Android is a bit, has a few more options for their codes. And you notice that once I set the first one, the others set things that are related. There you go. All right. So now we've created English, Swedish, and we've said that for each platform, these language codes should go to English, or these should go to Swedish. And now the last thing I said was, hey, what if my phone is in like French, for example? What should I see? Well, this is where default comes in. If you click English, now English will be the default. Right? That's part one. We've created a language. All right. Let's create some keys. Let's translate a few of the items on our UI. So the login button. Why not on the login page? Let's do that. So how do I do this? I go to the next page, which has something related. Again, same concept, right? What was the first thing I wanted to translate? Yes, my app. If I log out, these two. Let's try these two. The login button and the login title. So I'm just going to call it login, keep it simple. And yeah, just initially give a language. What should it be in English? Well, I did log in. Why not? You see, now in order to translate the subsequent languages, just select it, and it's a table. So you could have maybe 100 languages. So you would have a vertical table with all the languages. So let's just put something for Swedish. There we go. Google Translate to the rescue. And there we go. So English is log in, Swedish is log in. Right. And let's also do the login title. So you'll see a pattern here is that I'm using it's more like a key or a reference for me to know, for me to know, to have something to put on the UI, you'll see. So in English, let's just say login screen. Why not? Same concept. You can always go in and modify. Not an issue. So let's do the Swedish one. It's a bit more complex. Oop. There we go. And I apologize if this is the wrong translation. This is Google Translate. But I assume that this means login screen. And now the $1 million question, how do I use this? How do I actually configure it here? How is it going to magically know that this should change or this should change? This is a syntax again. So what is the syntax? You've seen it before. We have this function called translate. So you put the key name and you say translate. And we'll provide the example app so that people can see. Let's translate our login screen. So we want to change this. There we go. It seems a bit like some strange syntax, but it ends up converting this into the appropriate language. All right. And now you don't change it here. This is the name of the view, not the name of the actual screen for the actual title there. You need to actually change the thing here, right? So let me just do that really quickly. Click on the login. There we go. provide me with a translation right then and there. See, I'm using the name of the key that I defined earlier. Does that make sense? So let me just double check. Yeah, login title and login. Okay, and it's easy. It's much easier on my phone to check it. So I'll just do it on my iPhone. I'll show you this different translation. Let's go into webinar 3, just my webinar app, and you will see what I mean. Keep showing this again. There we go. You see, there's no strange syntax. It's showing me the text that I've defined, right? This is the same app as here. It's just that I can refresh this one. It's just that I need to change languages, and it's much easier on my phone. There you go. Same. Now let's check in Swedish. So I will go ahead into settings and language and region. There we go. This will disconnect my screen record. Let me bring that down. Oops. Disconnect, reconnect. It became gigantic all of a sudden. There we go. So now I'm in Swedish. Let me go back to my preview app. All right. There we go. You see, because my device, the phone now is in Swedish. So if you look at the settings app, you see everything is in Swedish. Because of that, then it decides, okay, so now you're in Swedish, then you should use the Swedish translation, and etc. You can do as many as you want. Well, as many as you have language codes for, obviously. Yeah. That's localization for you. And to answer a question that I got last time, this is not something that we allow you to set pragmatically and say the app should now use the Swedish translation. But if it's something that people require, it's something that can be added. It's not too difficult to add to the system. But right now, this is how it is. It automatically does it. Yes, and the question someone else gave me the other day when we are on this topic of localization, let me just log into the app really quickly, is, hey, Kevin, my list of groceries, how do I translate these? I mean, because these can be added by users, they can be added by other people, so they're not going to come in necessarily and translate here. And I did mention that the translation feature was meant for static content. For this, I advised them. So if we come back to our data set, which has my grocery items, like we did having a category in order to filter things, you can add another column, for example, which language, for example, text. And what you would do, this is how I would build it. Maybe you would build it some different way, is you would create maybe, you would say this is EN, you see, and then you would maybe create another version of Apple, but for SV, which would be Swedish, or FR, which would be French. And then how do I know what language to fetch? You can fetch dataset items with a logic block. You see. You can fetch the user's device language with the device language logic block, and then you can use it in this view. See? So you could build your own translated dataset if you wanted to. You can also use an API and use an external cloud translation if you want, if you prefer. But it's possible to retrieve the current language of the device from, and then make and then fetch dataset items and show it here. You see. So that's how you do a dynamic app, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, it's, as you saw, it's menu titles, anything on a view, anywhere that a user can see text, essentially, you could do a translation, right?